Board of County Commissioners acts as a quasi-judicial body when it hears requests for rezoning and conditional use permits. Applicants must provide competent, substantial evidence establishing facts or expert witness opinion testimony showing that the request meets the zoning code and comprehensive plan criteria. Opponents must also testify as to facts or provide expert testimony whether they like or dislike a request is not competent evidence. The board must then decide whether the evidence demonstrates consistency and compatibility with the comprehensive plan and the existing rules in the zoning ordinance, property adjacent to the property to be rezoned, and the actual development of the surrounding area. The board cannot consider speculation, non-expert opinion testimony, or poll the audience by asking those in favor or opposed to stand up or raise their hands. If a commissioner has had communications regarding a rezoning or conditional use permit request before the board, the commissioner must disclose the subject of the communication and the identity of the person, group, or entity with whom the communication took place before the board takes action on the request. Likewise, if a commissioner has made a site visit, inspection, or investigation, the commissioner must disclose that fact before the board takes action on the request. Each applicant is allowed a total of 15 minutes to present their request, unless time is extended by majority vote of the board. The applicant may reserve any portion of the 15 minutes for rebuttal. Other speakers are allowed 5 minutes to speak. Speakers may not pass their time to someone else in order to give that person more time to speak.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to welcome you to the Thursday, September 1st Board of County Commissioners zoning meeting. And I'm going to have Pastor Tyson Lindsay come up and do the invocation. Go ahead whenever you're ready.
Thank you, ma'am. Let's pray. Dear Lord, I thank you for today, for the beautiful sunshine and this evening. As this group is gathered together, Lord, I just ask that you give them a supernatural level of wisdom and discernment and civility as they work together to advance what Brevard County is trying to do, Lord. And I just ask that you help them to make all of the proper decisions and lead, guide, and direct them. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Thank you so much. And with that, we'll call this meeting to order. Commissioner Tobia.
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, we have no minutes for approval. Was there a resolution that was added to the agenda? Or was that to the next agenda? Consent. Okay. Oh, it was on consent. Okay. Moving on to consent. Does anybody want anything removed? I have no cards. With that, Commission, what's your pleasure?
Motion to approve consent.
Motion by Commissioner Tobia to approve consent. Second. Second by Commissioner Pritchett. All those in favor say aye. 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 Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Under item G, I have no public comment cards, so we'll move right into public hearings. Item H1.
Madam Chair, before we get started, I just wanted to mention if anybody is here to discuss items 5, 6, or 7, Ms. Jane Hart has a sign-in sheet to sign in, so we can include that with the packet up to DEO. So item H1 is Laura and Earl McCullough request to change zoning classification from SR within an existing BSP to RR-1, retaining the existing BSP application numbers 22Z00026, tax account numbers 2320550, located in District 2.
All right, you the applicant?
I am.
If you could just state your name, please.
E. Timothy McCullough, and I'm here with consent of my wife, at the insistence of my wife. My wife, we bought this property with the idea that she could perhaps have a horse. It sits on, it has a 600-foot driveway off of Hall Road, to the left of which, as you approach the house, there's a home with several acres of property. Our property has 2.35 acres. It's bounded by property that has about 25 acres on one side with horses and cattle. We have neighbors to the rear of our houses, none of whose property is within 450, 500 feet of our boundary line, and there's no home within probably 600, 700 feet of our home. We believe that this would not burden any of the surrounding properties, and it would provide more than ample property for the housing of a horse.
Okay, does Commission have any questions?
Make a motion to approve that.
Okay, we'll make a motion to approve by Commissioner
Second.
Pritchett, second by Commissioner Tobia. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you,
You're
Commissioners.
all set. Good luck.
Thank you.
Item H2,
2354 Talmadge Drive LLC requests a change of zoning classification from AU to RU-111. Application number is 22Z00028. Tax account number is 2103243, located in District 1.
all right, Commissioner Pritchett.
Motion to approve, ma'am.
Okay, I don't have any cards for H2. I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Pritchett, second by Commissioner Smith. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item H3,
Carla Theadora Reece requests to change the zoning classification from RR-1 to AU. Application number is 22Z00032. Tax account number is 2403816, located in District 1.
okay. Commissioner Pritchett,
I was going to make a motion to approve it.
did you want to speak? You're the applicant, you have the right to speak, but,
No, it's not necessary.
Okay.
If there are no questions.
great.
Don't screw it up.
Yeah. Motion by Commissioner Pritchett, second by Commissioner Tobia. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Good luck. Item H4,
Daren T and Regina M. Dempsey request to change the zoning classification from AU to RU-1-13. Application number is 22Z0033. Tax account number is 2318342, located in District 2.
applicant? Regina? Do you want to come up and talk about what's going on, what you're doing? Give you the opportunity.
Okay. So we bought this property, it's 1.4 acres, and we, because of the size of the property, the house that's on the property, it's like 1379 square feet, so this zoning helps make that existing house conforming. But we would be willing to sign a binding development agreement that we would do 2 houses per acre. So I think that eliminates a lot of the issues I've been listening to.
Okay. All right, we may have you come back up, or you're
Okay,
welcome.
just so you know, there's a adjacent property that's less than quarter acre lots on both sides.
Okay,
Thank you.
great. All right, Pamela Felsky?
Good
Can you
evening.
just state your name for the record?
Pamela Felsky.
Okay.
Good evening. I'm here to make a public comment opposing the change of zoning classification request. As a 20-year-plus homeowner in that immediate area, the RU-113 classification is completely out of character with the existing neighborhood and area. The single-family residents surrounding that property are AU, EU, and EU2. The change to RU-113 is inconsistent with the historical land use patterns in the area and is incompatible with the surrounding residences. It would negatively impact the value of the adjacent AU properties as well as the EU properties that are across the street. The introduction of the RU-113 classification, it's simply not appropriate in this rural suburban area. On 8/15/22, the Planning and Zoning Board unanimously recommended denial of a change of zoning classification from AU to RU-113 on August 11th. Of 2022, the North Merritt Island Dependent Special District Board recommended to deny the RU-113 and recommended the SR, which is the Suburban Residential Zoning Classification. Since the owner, who's a builder, has stated that their desire is to have 2 residences on the 1.41 acre lot, a more appropriate change of zoning classification for this area might be suburban residential. It's the minimum lot size of a half an acre, minimum floor area of 1,300 square foot living area, and the SR zoning classification would provide what the owner is asking for and be more compatible with the surrounding area. Anything denser than that's just simply not consistent with this whole area. Please do not consider the RU 113 zoning with a binding development plan restricting development to 2 houses. The existing house could be removed in the future, and then they would be allowed to put 6 or 7 houses on that lot. Please don't allow the possibility of a workaround in this very impactful situation. Please deny the request for the RU 113 classification. Unless you're going to deny it, it would be greatly appreciated if this could be tabled until we have a District 2 representative. Thanks for your consideration.
Thank you. Mary Gonzalez?
Okay, I'm Mary Gonzalez. I live at 4990 North Tropical Trail, and I am here also to request that the property not be rezoned, Ms. Dempsey's property not be rezoned as RU-1-13. North Tropical Trail is strictly a residential corridor. Most homes are large. They're on 1/2 to 2.5 or more acres. As Pam said, the current zoning is large. AU, EU, or EU2. There's no lot surrounding Ms. Dempsey's property that's less than 0.34 acres per the zoning board staff. Those smaller lots are in the nearby subdivision, and some of them are as large as 0.74 acres. There's a property that on the way into the subdivision that shares a lot line with Ms. Dempsey's, and is approximately 3 acres. It had horses on it recently, and it's still zoned to continue with horses. According to Administrative Policy 3 of the future land use element, compatibility with the surrounding area must be considered when changing the zoning for a property. Since there's no property that's zoned for more than 2 houses per acre, and even has zoning for horses on the adjacent property, the 5 houses that Ms. Dempsey is requesting is incompatible with the surrounding area. The North Merritt Island Special District Board refused her request when she stated that what she wanted was just to build 1 more house. They suggested that she use an SR. The Planning and Zoning meeting, which came after that, and some of us spoke at again, stated that SR was acceptable and it allowed the additional house to be built that she was requesting. She could obtain a variance if she needed it, and she said no, it wasn't acceptable. They then talked to her and asked her some questions, and she said that she really intended to build 3 or more houses on that lot, not the one that she had said. So again, this all makes it very incompatible with what's already there. According to Administrative Policy 4, the character of the area must not be materially or adversely affected by the proposed zoning or land use. RU 1-13 is an entirely new code for North Tropical Trail. It's never been there. It would cause a substantial increase in density and permanently change the entire character of the area. It would go from rural residential with horses allowed to a density that is consistent with the city, not rural, nor not horse-friendly, not open with large lots and large houses as it is now. Once you allow a new, denser zoning code, there's no going back. It will materially and adversely affect the area. Administrative Policy 5 requires you to look at existing road systems to ensure there's no substantial or adverse traffic impacts or material danger to public safety in the area. It's a rural 2-lane road without sidewalks. It means we all walk on the road for exercise and to walk our dogs. Once multiple properties turn into houses on 1/6-acre lots, traffic will increase greatly, and it will put us all at additional risk. Administrative Policy 7 states that the proposed land use may not cause any significant adverse or unmitigatable impact on significant water bodies. Everything along Tropical Trail is just septic systems. New homes would be septic as well. Once rezoning is allowed with this density, it will substantially increase septic usage, and the lagoon is already stressed from septic runoff. This will only add to it. Finally, both advisory boards rejected the change as incompatible. The density called for would materially change the entire character of the neighborhood for the worse. Small houses on tiny lots would interfere with our rural way of life and disturb the quiet we already have. It would diminish the enjoyment of the people already living in the area. In addition, it would cause Tropical Trail to become more dangerous because of the increased traffic and have an adverse impact on the Indian River Lagoon. So I also am asking that we please reject the RU1-13. It's too dense, and it is just not compatible with anything out there. Once you do that in that area, everything will change. It's not just that it's one little property. Since it has never been there before, it's a change to the entire area. Thank you.
Thank you. Jeff Duncan?
Hello. My name is Jeff Duncan. I live at 4855 North Tropical Trail, Merritt Island, Florida, 32953, across the street from the house in question for the zoning. You may want to refer to page 194 of your zoning packet, or I can give you some hard copies. I've got a map printed out with a highlighted yellow section that I'm going to speak to, whichever you would prefer.
We've got all the maps and everything in here.
Okay. Using the Brevard County zoning and future land use web app site to determine the actual zoning for each parcel of land, if you look at Merritt Island from State Road 528 north to the NASA Causeway and Courtney Parkway west to the Indian River, the only instance of the RU113 zoning being employed is for the River Island Estates development, which is 2.3 miles away from 4850 North Tropical Trail property. Aside from the River Island Estates development, there are no examples of the RU113 zoning being utilized being utilized in the previously mentioned section of Merritt Island, which encompasses the property in question. And so the map that I drew up, it's got a highlighted yellow section. That's a huge swath of land that I'm speaking to. And there's not any single standalone properties that previously have this zoning that is being applied for. Additionally, I recognize that there is a large-scale townhome development going in on Courtney Parkway and Porcher Road at this time. However, it is not a reasonable comparison because the townhome development is a commercial property, not residential. Septic aspects. If approved for RU113 zoning, which would allow for a minimum lot size of 0.2 acres per house, and the 4850 North Tropical Trail property is 1.41 acres in size, that could result in as many as 7 houses. Additionally, the 4850 North Tropical Trail lot is currently on septic, as we all are in this area. That means you could have 6 more houses with septic tanks about 0.3 miles from the Indian River Lagoon and the waters of Manatee Cove Park, which is across the street. The absence of any RU113 zoning being utilized for a standalone property, as mentioned previously, demonstrates the unprecedented and out-of-character nature for the requested zoning change. August 11 was the North Merritt Island Dependent Special District Board meeting, and they voted to deny the RU113 zoning and recommended SR zoning. August 15 was the Planning and Zoning Board meeting, and they voted unanimously to deny the change of zoning to RU113. My wife and I are on record that if the zoning request was for 2 houses maximum at the 4850 North Tropical Trail property, we would concur with the change. However, we do not feel that the possibility of 7 houses across the street from us would be appropriate or within the character of North Merritt Island. And just an amendment to my previously written notes here. My wife and I would not be in concurrence with a binding development plan or anything of that nature. We would rather the vehicle that limits the property to 2 houses be via zoning. I hope that you will give this information from myself, other speakers, in the previous board meeting recommendations due consideration and disapprove this zoning change because it clearly demonstrates that the requested zoning change is not appropriate for this part of Merritt Island. And I've got a little bit more time to add to it, and I will. It's just sort of ad-libbing at this point. My wife and I were recently retired. We both worked many decades. I think my wife is at about 40 and I'm very close to it. We've saved all of our lives, worked for this, and we love Florida, we love Brevard, and especially North Merritt Island. So after a lot of searching, and we really scoured, and we knew we wanted to be in North Merritt Island specifically for the rural nature of this area. We found a lot, we made an offer, we negotiated it, bought it, got with a builder. We had our dream house, our forever house. This is the house we're going to be until we die. And we invested an enormous, for us, sum of money in this forever house. And it was a dream come true for us. The culmination of years and years of work and getting up early, staying up late, doing what it takes to get the job done, stay employed. We literally moved across the country twice to stay employed. And for this zoning possibility to come up across the street from us, for us, is a very negative outcome if it goes that way. Thank you for hearing me out, and I appreciate your time and consideration.
Ms. Dempsey, do you want to come back up and rebut anything? Or does anybody have any questions for Ms. Dempsey? Commissioner Pritchett? Or, I think she hit her button first, but you should. Okay.
Okay, I did a little extra studying because District 2 doesn't have a commissioner. And what I'm hearing everybody say, just so you guys know what I'm thinking, is that they will be stressing if you do more than 2 houses. And I looked at here, and it's actually a pretty big lot, 1.4 acres. And it looks like 2 lots really would fit on it. So I don't know where you guys are, but I'm thinking if you're willing to do a binded development plan with only 1 house on each lot when you split it, I'm probably going to be good with it. So you guys know a binding development plan, it's binding, it's a contract. It's what must be done, and it can't be violated when we do this. I looked at the SR, and the only problem with that is they've got a minimum of 100 square feet in the front, so you could only do 1 house on that. So
we're actually trying to keep the existing home there. It's like a little historic home. And we are already in permitting right now to move a shed, so the setbacks would be okay for the other property to have 1 house.
So that's what I'm looking at. It's actually, this lot's big enough to fit like 4 or 5 of them little EU zonings in there. So I think I'm comfortable if there's only two lots, 2 houses, and you're willing to do that contract for it.
And it would be this aerobic septic tank. It's required on Merritt Island. I understand that. And so we build
really,
custom homes. We don't build tract homes.
It fits with the pattern of what's going in the neighborhood. So I know it's called this, but if you do that BDP, it actually takes care of a lot of the heartburn I think the neighbors are having. So that's all I have, ma'am.
And the adjacent property is North Grove. It is zoned EU, and they're 1/4 acre lots. There's a tennis court in between my property and that subdivision, and then there's another subdivision zone, same 1/4 acre lots. So that's all I really.
Commissioner Tobia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. And I would have the question would be from was going to be towards the applicant. Now it would be to Commissioner Pritchett with your approval.
Yeah, of course.
I think that's a great idea. The question I had is, since it looks like their current house isn't in compliance because of the square footage, would your motion, when you put one out, because I agree with you on the BDP of 2 lots, would it be to change the zoning to RU 113 so we could get the 1301 in compliance?
Yes, sir.
Okay, if you make that motion, I will be more than willing to to support that.
I make a motion to allow the applicant to change it to RU 113 and with the BDP that you said you would do with just 1 house on each lot.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Okay, I have a motion and a second, and I just have a question for Tad. The BDP goes with the lots, correct?
Yes, ma'am, it runs with the land.
And as far as the concern about whether or not they bulldoze the house in front, they can't go and put up 5 houses, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I think that was a concern, that if they changed, you know, the building scheme.
It's always one house per lot.
There's some discussion over here in the back.
I just want to make sure I understand. The motion is for there to be 2 units on two, well, let me one unit on one lot and a maximum of 2 lots. Is that what I understood?
Yes, sir. Maximum
Okay.
of 2 lots. And just-
Maximum of 2 lots, 1 unit on each.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
And
Thank you.
The applicant's agreeable with that? You're okay with it? Okay. We can't go back and forth in the audience, that's why if you had questions.
Thank
Okay.
you.
Yep.
Go sit down.
Yeah, I'm good. I'm good with questions. Are you guys good with it? And we can ask after we're done discussion up here. All right, I have a motion and a second. Is it clear to the clerk? All right. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. And I would encourage you, if you have questions, you can talk to staff after the meeting or pull them aside. All right. All right, moving on to items H, 5, 6, and 7. So you're going to put these items together?
I don't, they're separate items that deal with separate properties. They are similar, but I'm going to read them into the record. They'll have to be separate motions. So item H5 is Robert Clay and Ethylmay Kirk request a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment 22S.10, change the future land use designation from recreation to Res 4. Application numbers 22SS00007. Tax account number is 3018268, located in District 1.
I don't have any cards. All right, Commissioner Pritchett?
Yes, ma'am. Just so Ms. Rezanka has an easier time here, they all 3 go together. This one's kind of add and access. And by the time we get to item H8, I know that you guys have already, I'm sorry, H7, you guys have already put a BDP in place with the amount of units. So I just want to say, after going through all of these, I'm quite comfortable with them. So, Madam Chair, I'd like to make a motion to approve item H5.
I have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett. Now, Ms. Rezanka, did you want to speak? Are you okay with?
I'm good with questions.
Okay, all right.
I have a question.
Oh, Commissioner Smith?
Did you call me on any of these?
No.
I didn't think
not
so.
on these.
I know we talked about some library books, but I wasn't sure that, okay, I'm good.
Thank you.
And Commissioner Smith just asked because he wants to disclose if he has, that's all, if anybody's wondering. All right. Okay, I have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett for approval of H5. Second by Commissioner Tobia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. H6?
Paul J. Marion, Kimberly Ann LaMattina, Kayla Marie Losat, and Jessica Lynn Ripper, and Robert Clay Kirk, and Ethylmay Kirk request a small-scale comprehensive plan amendment 22S.11 to change the future land use designation from Res 2 to Res 4. Application numbers 22SS00008. Tax account numbers are 21028878 and 21028882, located in District 1.
I make a motion to approve, ma'am.
A motion to approve by Commissioner Pritchett. Second by Commissioner Tobia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. H7?
Paul J. Marion, Kimberly Ann LaMattina, Kayla Marie Losat, and Jessica Lynn Ripper, and Robert Clay Kirk and Ethylmay Kirk request to change the zoning classification from AU SR RU 1-11 in GML with an existing BDP on SR and RU 111 portions to RU 1-7, removing the existing BDP and adding a new BDP. Application numbers 22Z00029. Tax account numbers are 2102878, 2102918, 2102919, 2102882, 3018268 and 2113544, located in District 1.
I make a motion to approve, ma'am.
With the removal of the old BDP and the admission of the new BDP?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. I have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett, second by Commissioner Tobia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Okay, item H8.
Lynda L. Lyles requesting removal of an existing BDP in an AU zoning classification. Application number is 22Z00035. Tax account number is 3010233, located in District 3.
Hello, my name is Nita Salmon, and I represent Mrs. Lyles.
Okay.
My address is 888 U.S. Highway 441, Okeechobee, Florida, 34974.
Okay.
So we're just looking to remove an existing BDP that was put into place 20 years ago. So right now, the intent is just to remove that. The current DBP, I can't say it fast, as only allowing one residence on 20 acres. So what she wants to do is subdivide to two 10-acre tracts. We have a flag lot in application and sell the back half to the gentleman that's basically their caretaker. So that would allow him to put one resident back there, maintain the one resident there, no other changes.
Commissioner Tobia?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I'm going to make a motion to grant the removal of the applicant's current BDP and replace with the BDP limiting the development to 2 lots.
Second.
All right, I have 2 more cards. All right. We'll call you back up if we have questions or if you want to rebut. Pamela Hughes? That's okay. You can make a motion.
Hi, I'm Pamela Hughes. My address is 5050 Hitchin Post Lane, Mico, Florida, 32976. My husband, Michael Hughes, and I own land directly east of this particular party's that's going to be abutting to our property. And that whole entire area has BDPs. And currently, what I know in the approximate area, 72 acres are adjacent, including Mrs. Lyles' land, and they're all under BDPs. My property, BDP, limits it to 2 houses, which is fine. We're only going to have 1. And it's, as mentioned before, it's our forever house. So we're approximately 50 feet from our front door to the line that is under consideration for sale. So our concern is that if you take away the BDPs and just use AU and say you're only going to do 2 10-acre properties, that's not exactly what would be binding at all. Anybody could come along after they sell the property and say, okay, I didn't agree to that. I'm going to put 20, 40, 60 houses on that 10 acres. So that's of concern to us. Mrs. Lyles' 20 acres presents an opportunity for significant building on that parcel. Ms. Lyles has told us that she only wishes to sell the east 10 acres to a dear friend, Dr. Monty Williams. Mr. Williams has proclaimed that he plans to only build 1 house, nothing more. We have seen a lot of large things that he's put back on that 10 acres already that looks like it's more for putting things in there to storage. And if it's really true what he says, he's only going to build one house on the 10 acres, and this is the intent, we're fine with that. The situation, though, that was discussed at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting was that instead of just taking the binding development, the BDP, into going away and just having the one AU situation that could be changed at any time in the future. We talked at the Planning and Zoning Board meeting that made the BDP be on each of those 10 acres, just change, like cut it in half, and then there would be no problem. But given that all the rest of us around that property have BDPs, making it AU and AU alone just puts us in risk of losing our way of life. And we're all back there because we like that way of life, and we're already being told that Fleming Grant Road, which is our access, is looking at putting in 150 new houses about a mile up the road. And when we think about how much cars and traffic and everything that's going to happen to impact our way of life is what's tantamount to us at this time. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you. Marlene Hughes?
Good evening. Hello. My name is Marlene Hughes. I reside at 5033 Hitchin Post Lane in Mico, Florida, District 3. Before I begin, may I ask Mr. Tobia to please repeat his motion he made before we began?
Okay, I mean, if he wants to.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I think it met many of the requirements that were up here. It was to grant the removal of the current BDP and replace it with a BDP that limits to development to 2 lots. So that BDP would follow the 2 lots.
Oh, right, because I didn't quite understand. It sounded to me as though you were just saying to grant the removal of the BDP.
Yes, grant the removal of the BDP and in its place put
Underlying
another BDP.
New conditions with
that
2 new.
that have 2 lots. So yes, the person would be able to build 2 lots, and that's
So
it.
would it be the existing BDP would carry to both lots if she were to sell 10 acres, her back 10 acres? So currently her 20 acres holds 1 BDP, 1 house, 2 horses, and a tree farm. If she sells the 10 acres, would that 10 acres also?
The BDP follows the land. The BDP always follows the land. It's a condition of sale, so it
Okay,
follows the
so
land.
would there be reason to change anything on her BDP to carry to the other 10 acres? We don't know.
I'm not sure what you're asking, I
So
think.
a tree farm, how many acres does it take for a tree farm to exist? Because in her BDP, it says that it's for a tree farm only. And I'm not sure if it's a 10 acre or 20 acre minimum.
1 house.
1 house per.
So the BDP, if you're willing to take that BDP, move it over to the other 10 acres that gets sold, I don't have a problem with her dividing her lot into 2 separate living spaces.
I don't think that that's what the applicant was desiring to do, so I guess we'll talk about it with the applicant.
Right, so currently she
she
just
comes
wants
up.
to remove her whole BDP, but you're going to, excuse me, you're going to suggest or make a motion that remove it but replace it with another BDP of the similar exact thing for the 2 separate lots once she divides her lots?
We'll talk about it with the applicant. We'll find out, because we're not even sure the applicant's going to agree to what Commissioner Tobias suggested, but I think it'll be clear once we have the applicant back up
Right.
here.
Okay, because, and also at the planning and zoning, there was made reference that three houses were sharing that one road, and that is not correct. It's just two houses. Pamela Hughes and myself are sharing the Hitchin Post Lane access. Lorraine DeMontney, who has the 5005 address, she has her own flag stem for her own access to her own property.
Okay.
And that's pretty much all I wanted to say, was just, I'm for her breaking her property, but I'm not for the removal of a BDP. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, you want to come back up so we can get some clarity? I know you were requesting just removal of the BDP.
Yes.
Are you amicable with the insertion of another BDP in its place, or were you just asking for the removal and that's it?
I mean, his intent is just to put a residence on the back 10, so I'm a little confused now just from the way it was being said. I wasn't before, but the original binding agreement is on 20 acres. So it would, in my opinion, has to be removed in order for her to sell the property, get the flag lot, have the additional 10 acres for him to build his residence. And it meets the future land use of whatever the county is the one that provided that. That was never his intent.
Right.
The driveway that she's talking about has nothing to do with any of it. His flag lot would come off of Fleming Grant Road. So we're not dealing with that little road that separates his property from their properties.
And it sounds, at least I have the impression, that you're just trying to go through the process.
Yeah.
In order to move forward. Ted? Is she eligible to put another BDP in place if she can't separate those lots until this BDP is removed? Is that what the trouble is?
No, so the BDP that's in place encumbers the 20 acres and limits it to one home.
Yes.
So that's the limiting factor here, plus the limiting of the 2 horses and the tree farm aspect. So I think what the applicant is asking for is for that to go away. And then they would be able to have, they have a flag stem application that's in-house, and we've preliminarily approved it. That shows 2 10-acre lots, a flag stem lot, and then the lot up front. So, and I understand what Commissioner Tobia is asking is there to be 2 lots, which is what we have in the flag stem, and then there would be 1 home on each lot, and not have the limitations of the tree farm, the horses, and the other aspects of it. I understand that's what he's proposed.
And I just want to make sure that the process, we can do that.
Yeah, they have
with
to.
that application still in place and everything?
Yes, ma'am, but it
Okay.
would be a new BDP with the new provisions.
Okay.
The old BDP would be removed, and then there would be a new BDP in its place.
And I just wanted clarity from you that you were okay with that, because that's not what you were asking for. You were asking, you told us what your intentions were, but you
Yeah.
weren't asking for a new BDP in place. Are you okay if this board puts that restriction on there?
Yes, I don't clearly understand that part of it, but if you sell the property, then it's not a BDP. We would have 2 separate ones, right? One for each lot.
I think that would be okay as long as the 20 acres was encumbered with the BDP. So there'd be a BDP on one lot and a BDP on the other lot, limiting it to 1 home on each.
Okay. And that's
I mean, yeah, I will agree to
agreeable?
that. I think I'm not overly thrilled with it, but yeah.
And I think that takes care of the neighbor's concerns.
Yeah, because he's only wanting to do the one house anyway.
Right.
So the future land use was something, that the county developed, saying it was going to be more, which is a potential in the future. It's always going to be a potential in the future.
Yeah.
Whoever buys the property after him would come back and go through the same thing.
And if 20 years from now, someone needs to do something different.
And this was 20 years ago that this started. So we were just hoping to kind of get the interference out of the way, and it doesn't have any impact on anybody for anything, but if this is the only way to accomplish it, then yes.
But it sounds like you're able to achieve what it is you're trying to do out there. And I think
Yes.
that's probably the most important thing, and it also puts your neighbors' minds at ease as well.
Yes.
Commissioner Tobia? Do you want to just restate it so it's clear to?
Again, make a motion to remove the applicant's current BDP and replace it with a BDP limiting development to 2 lots, whether that is 1 BDP over 20 or 2 BDPs over 10 each. as long as there's only one house on each lot. That's what that's the motion, Madam Chair.
All right, I have a motion by Commissioner Tobias, second by Commissioner Smith. Any further discussion? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Thank you.
All done?
You're all done.
Thank you.
Item H9.
Madam Chair, item H9 is a text amendment to the comprehensive plan, adding the coastal high hazard area maps to the coastal management element 10 and correcting a scrivener's error to the glossary item in 16. So what this request is to do is to add 3 maps that DEO had requested us to do regarding the peril of flood. We've included that. The other item in this is to correct the scrivener's error in the glossary to change the word "and" to an "or." There was under the conditions under the definition of "should."
Commission, what's your pleasure? I have a motion to approve by Commissioner Smith.
Second.
Second by Commissioner Tobia. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion passes unanimously. Item H10.
Brian G. and Debra S. Lawson and David and Alicia McCabe request a change of zoning classification from GU to RR-1 with a BDP. Application number is 22Z0005. Tax accounts are as listed in the staff report. It's located in District 1.
Commissioners, if I may give you guys an update, there's been a lot of movement on this application, and then I think we've gotten to a good place where the applicant at one point in this was asking for AUL, but now that is not what their request is. So what we're recommending and what we're proposing is that the board approve the RR1 zoning classification with the binding development plan. The binding development plan would be limited to the property that is not homesteaded, which the property that would be exempt is tax account 231473.7, and that it would apply to the remaining acreage there, and it would limit the development of that to 3 units. And I believe that the applicant is in agreement with that, and I think that'll help this move along a little quicker, just having that understanding.
Okay. Commissioner Pritchett?
Yes, ma'am. I know you had to do a lot of work there at the last minute, but if you're agreeable to that BDP on the parcel that Mr. Calkins just said, I think this is going to be a good project. So make a motion to approve.
With all that stuff?
Yes, yes.
Second.
I have a motion by Commissioner Pritchett, second by Commissioner Tobia. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passed unanimously. And I just had applicant cards. I didn't have any public comment. All right, no unfinished or new business. Moving on to public comments. Item K, Ms. Sullivan.
Good evening. Sandra Sullivan, South Patrick Shores. So unfortunately, last night, there was a city council meeting in Satellite Beach that they approved to move forward to violate the deed restrictions on 2 parks which the county had given to the city. And just for a little background, in December of 2020, I came before this commission and I requested and asked the commission if you would do a legal opinion pertaining to their, at that time, putting forth that parking management plan. And so there was a legal opinion that determined that that plan would be a violation. So their motion last night was to violate the deed restrictions of the county and move ahead with differential parking. They said to pacify one of the commissioners, they would start at 25, but the discussion was very clear that there would be substantial increases on that rate for Brevard County residents. They said $50 for non-county residents and no charge for their city residents. So this was already determined to be a violation. There is also another previous legal opinion on those covenants that when they approved the development plan for the view with the Sky Bridge into the former county park, that also was a violation because representing private use on a public use park. There are other agreements that govern that park. It used to be an unincorporated area prior to 1999. It was annexed into the city when they did the FCT agreement, and for the promise that it would be managed as conservation lands. The letter written to the county was generations of Brevard County residents would be forever indebted to the county for its cooperation with the city. Unfortunately, the city betrayed that trust to the public with putting an intention to put a hotel with intensity use on a site which has limited human activity. The county park in the federal agreement, the LW 541, that park is part of the conservation lands in the survey attached to that agreement. I would suggest to you that this moving ahead is what they call a trial balloon to see if the county allows them to violate the agreement so that they can move forward with further violating the agreement with non-public use of that site. I ask you to invoke the shall revert back to the county under the reverter clause, which is mandatory, not optional. Thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Tobia?
Thank you, Madam Chair, and I can't believe I'm going to say it. Thank you, Sandra, for showing up at that meeting. I went back and I had the county attorney, someone in the county attorneys go back and ask for the full footage. So watched some of it, and I want to dovetail off a little bit of what Ms. Sullivan said. I was quite frankly appalled with what the city was doing. There's the term in politics where the tail wags the dog. This is exactly what happened. The motion made by a councilwoman was to proceed with the beach parking committee suggestion, and here's where it's very important, regardless of the deed restrictions. So these folks know that there are deed restrictions. It was in the motion. In fact, I went as far as pulled up the agenda report, and it is clearly stated in the agenda report that there are deed restrictions on that, and applying, continue the quote, and applying $25 annual parking fee for the city residents to be slid across from ad valorem to be paid for by the city and then for county residents, and that's where it ends. But then the audio picks up, and there was a mention that potentially charging $50 for out-of-county visitors, making there are three costs. The deed restrictions, or the cost has to be the same. There can be no differential. There would be three costs there. Let me go over those. First of all, the city, they claim they'd be charging $25, but they're not. They're backfilling that with the plan, and this is all in writing, so this isn't, and they're very transparent about disregarding the deed, backfilling it with general fund, charging county residents $25, so we would have to pay, they wouldn't, and then charging out of county residents $50. So there's three pricing structures right there. Now, I've spoken personally when this idea was first of all floated to Ms. Eden Bentley. She said that this scheme, did not fly. There was I don't know whether it's an opinion, but certainly an email from.
Hey, is there anybody there? Doctor, we just had a guy have a seizure upstairs in the production rooms.
Christine.
Somebody could send out?
Like, take a 10-minute break?
Yes. Yeah.
10-minute break? Where's the production room at upstairs?
It's next to my office.
Okay.
She's wondering who that was.
It's nice having Christine here right now, huh? Oh, yeah.
Listening to it.
Should we cut off the sound? Can we cross sound on TV? Cross sound on TV? This is on TV, right? How do we cut the mic? That's kind of private. So I just heard him just pass this on. It's another wire. See, this is why the commissioners are good at what they do, because we get a doctor in the house. Yeah.
Commissioner Tobia, you want to continue?
Thank you, Madam Chair, for not only continuing but helping staff again. Okay, back on to what the county attorney not only said verbally but wrote down was that this scheme would not work. And let me tell you what's at risk here, and this is in writing. FDEP does not view parking spaces as being public for grant funding purposes, where different groups of people are charged different parking fees. So we could potentially be affecting our grant funding. So it's extremely important. But they went on, and in addition, the council imposed a threat to our board, which leaves Brevard County residents as victims. So let me quote, and I would have had it up here, but you know, I'm trying to follow policy and not put anything up there. I just got it this morning, so it would not have been within that 24-hour. It would have been, sorry, within the 24-hour. But quote, if you want to take us to court for this, we will probably look at increasing our fees for county residents significantly for other facilities that we give you now for the same residents' costs that our residents pay. So if that's the way they want to go, I want to say that this is the movement that we will take.
Say who said that?
I prefer not to name any names, but that was a male figure that said that threat. So while knowingly infringing upon deed restrictions, the council is better on the fact that we won't sue them. They're betting on the fact that we won't sue them. So let me tell you what they said, and I've been very clear on this, that I'm not for this, and I've been abiding by sunshine, as I imagine the rest of you are, and that's why I'm bringing it up in here. But I'll be very honest, I can't understand how I'm not the one that they're speaking of, so I wanted to find out where you were. But here's what another commissioner said, a city council member said, quote, if there are 3 county commissioners that don't have an issue with it, they are not going to sue us, because there has to be an affirmative vote of the commission in order to initiate a lawsuit. So at this point, based on what we understand the situation to be, they're not going to sue us. So here's the question. I mean, this is a direct quote. I'd be more than willing to bring this up here.
Was that from last night?
This is all from this is all from last night. If Satellite Beach violates our contract, knowing full well that what they're doing, and proceed with an item against the county attorney and a county attorney staff have opined and written and threatening FDEP grants, I'd certainly like to hear from you guys so the city of Satellite Beach can know that, you know, where you are on that. And if you have no intent of doing that, you know, please say it with a microphone in front of your face. But I'll tell you what, they've just asked the staff to go forward with this. They haven't made a vote on it, but I would rather let them know that don't waste staff's time on doing this. But I met with City Councilwoman and Courtney Barker, and I was extremely clear as where I was, and maybe that got lost in communication, or maybe you are there. Just I want to save some time, and I don't want to have a lawsuit with any of these folks. My parents live in Satellite Beach, but I think I was surprised being threatened on all of this stuff. I was a little disgusted.
Did they contact, or did they bring their attorney into the discussion?
Not from what I saw.
Huh.
No.
So I just wanted to hear where you guys were on this one. There's no need to do any type of injunction now because they haven't yet voted on it, but they've sent staff forward with this. It would probably be, I don't know, Madam Chair, if you're, I don't know if you guys are against it, I mean, for them going forward with that, that's fine. We don't need to do anything. But if you want to save them a little time and aggravation and let them know that we kind of agree with what a former county attorney and a current assistant county attorney, and maybe our current, she just hadn't put it in writing, to save Satellite Beach staff some time, it's probably worth doing. But the threat was a little over the top, I thought.
I think Ms. Christie can add a lot to whether it's legal or not right now. She just told me
Okay.
something a second ago.
If there's a differential in what people are paying for parking, we would have a basis to proceed with legal action under the deed restriction for Hightower Park. And that could include an action for injunction. My understanding is there's not a draft ordinance prepared yet, so we can't really look totally at what they are, what they're putting in play. But if there is a differential in parking, that would seem to violate the deed restriction and could be a basis for legal action if the board would authorize it.
But the charging for parking is not in violation of the deed?
Right, they can charge for parking, they can charge everybody the same amount, and that will not violate the deed restriction. It's the non-uniform manner of doing it that would be the problem.
Frank?
I'll give you the quote right out of the deed. Any user fees required by the city must be applied uniformly with no differential in amount charged to the public.
Commissioner Tobia?
And this is from the city of Satellite Beach, and here's the scheme. This is from the city of Satellite Beach. I'd be more than willing to share this. When city residents come to get their permits, the city will be moving the cost of the permit from the general fund to the beach parking fund, since the city residents already pay for the beach maintenance with their taxes. So this is their writing, this isn't ours. This is the way they're saying that the city will be paying $25, we'll be paying $25. I don't know how they are saying $25 and the $50 what out-of-county residents would pay, but even at a minimum, what the city residents are paying according to this and the way they're going to fund it and what the rest of the county would be paying are different. And again, I'm not making this up. This is dated, even though I think it's wrong, November 18th, 2020. From the city of Satellite Beach. So I'll hand that to the clerk. But anyway, just throwing that out there.
Commissioner Smith?
Sorry.
What you were referring to was a letter that was sent to me back in 2020 when they were initially thinking about doing the parking. So that letter was from, I believe, the city manager to me because she had brought up the subject. And there were different terms because I believe at that point, if I recall the letter right, it was, they were thinking of doing $50 of the fee. I believe the one that, from what I read, was a $25 one last night, but I think the terms that Commissioner Tobia was talking about is the same strategy that they may be planning to utilize at this point.
But then I guess the legal question would be, is it still considered uniform if they're shifting, if they're playing?
Well, that would be the legal question.
Yeah.
That would be exactly the point. And again, what they're doing with the out-of-county residents matters, right? So if they're charging out-of-county residents $50, that's different than a $25 charge. So that's a differential right there. But if they were to charge everybody $25 across the board, then your only legal question is whether the rebate would violate the deed restriction.
Madam Chair. Again, this is from the agenda from last night. It says it is the city's staff's opinion that the city's strategy of using city tax revenue to pay the annual permits of city residents meets the terms of the deed restrictions.
That's their attorney?
I don't know it. This is their agenda, so I don't know who wrote this, but it's directly word for word off of what was presented to the city last night. And it goes on to say, considering we have not been able to get an opinion from the county attorney's office, again, the county attorney doesn't work for them, right? We've let them know. They've seen the opinions. They let them know no. By our definition, it doesn't meet it. We don't have to justify it as to why. So, again, I think it's overreach. I think it's really presumptive that the three of you guys are going to sit by idly on your hands and not do anything, because I've been extremely clear that I would move forward because we could potentially lose a great deal of dollars. So I think the three was you guys, and I'd like you to speak up and give your piece on the record to help some folks that are probably confused as where you may stand. If you stand there, that's fine. I completely get that, but I don't want the them to waste their staff's time or their attorney's work product to end up in what is going to be an injunction. Even if you're there, we've got 2 new county, commissioners coming up. We don't know where they would stand, and that may be their play to get this done prior to. I don't know, but we still could do an injunction after. Just wanted to see where you guys stood on this. Sorry to take up so much time, and sorry I couldn't put up the video. It was pretty good.
Commissioner Smith?
Yeah, I would rather wait until we actually get a proposal from them. What they said in the meeting may be inflammatory, but at the same time, it's not, we don't know for sure that's where they're going. I would just caution us to just wait until we actually get something in writing from them, and then we can allow our attorneys to dissect it and look at it 8 ways from Sunday and give us their advice, and we can go from there.
And I certainly don't want to be in violation of any of the deed.
Of course not.
Commissioner Tobia, so are they getting ready to raise all of their constituents' taxes to give them all a parking pass? Is that what they're saying then? Because if they're taking it out of their taxes.
No, Madam Chair, it's Satellite Beach. They raise taxes every year. I mean, over and over and over again. And sometimes they're so blatant. They're like, we don't increase the millage, but you know what? Your property values went up 20%.
Yeah.
So I'm sorry. My parents live in Satellite Beach, and their tax bill goes up and up and up. Whether they're going to raise it or not, I have no idea. And listen, they may not violate this, but I want to stop this in the tracks. I don't want them to waste the staff's time on this. And if it's in violation of the deed, and we have it in writing that it is in fact, not me, but someone in the county attorney's office. I've had a verbal conversation with a previous county attorney when this first of all came up. She didn't put it in writing, but that was the gist, and now it's writing here. You can find out what we potentially could lose. I'd just like to save the time from those folks. I don't want to threaten anything, but I'd rather nip it in the bud.
Well, I think you served notice, so.
No, I'm already on the record saying, hey, if you violate deed restriction according to what the county attorney has put down in writing, you will have my vote to go forward with an injunction to stop this. If they hear it from 1 or 2 other folks, they may find they may figure that it's probably not worth their time going forward. But they're very clear about their intent, and they're very presumptive to the 3 of you guys that you're not going to do a darn thing.
Well, I'm with you, Commissioner Tobia. If they do something to break what they're not supposed to do, I'll sign up with you on that. It's just interesting to me that they would risk hearing their citizens know that they're going to charge them extra taxes to get a parking pass, which most of them aren't going to park there. And also putting out the word that pretty much if anybody else comes here, you're really not welcome. We're going to charge you a lot of money to park more than everybody else. I don't know. That's not a very good thing to put out. And, we try not to make emotional decisions, but when you start your subject with, commissioners, your mama, it just kind of gets everybody's attention. So it's not brilliant politics there either. So, sir, if they do something that violates the deed, I'm with you, because I'm not going to do anything to harm what we have going. And someone needs to get their head there and rethink that. It's not a good place to be making money. I can see trying to maintain a park, but that doesn't feel good. It doesn't sit good. So I understand.
And I've never been a fan of paid parking. I understand the purpose, because you want to make sure your facilities are up to par and maintenance is done and that you have a good product. So I'm not even necessarily opposed to there being a charge for parking. I mean, I live in Indy Atlantic and we pay everywhere except our county park, right? So, I'm not opposed to that, but I definitely don't want to support anything that's in violation of the deed. I mean, there's just no way. And I don't think that, I don't think this board would. I don't think anybody on this board would.
They seem to believe that was the case by
Well, not if our county attorney is saying it's in violation, then we would be.
They were well aware of that. They were absolutely well aware of the situation. The only thing they were not well aware of what you're saying here, I'd normally ask for you to write a letter letting them know that if you violate deed restrictions, we will do whatever, but I think they're probably going to watch this. And I think you guys have been pretty darn clear where that letter doesn't need to go out.
And I don't know if I
appre-
didn't follow the prior county attorney's opinion on it. I don't know that it ever got that far as this board goes, but I had no idea myself
Yeah, I
that the
think
county
they
attorney.
withdrew it.
Yeah,
I think-
it kind
I
of
think it was
went
pretty
a
clear
couple years ago,
where we
right?
were.
Well,
Yeah, it was
Madam
the
Chair,
end
I'll
of
give you guys some
2020.
homework. Go. It's online now. Go watch it. And I wish I could put it up here, but I would feel. Thankfully, I was very, very clear. I'd feel insulted, in all honesty, if I were you guys. They said you'd basically lay over and wouldn't do a darn thing about it.
Fought for the scrub jays.
I agree. I appreciate everyone's support there, and I think we've saved some folks some time, some heartache, and I'm not even fighting on the parking fee. I don't like parking fees, but the differential and the threat of us losing funding from FDEP is very scary to me.
Well, the
So
county should have
I appreciate
the
it.
same thing. I don't like that either.
That was
Yeah.
my board report as well. So thank you.
Do you have an update on the scrub jay situation in Malabar?
I think I can punt that over to the county attorney. I think the end of November, we have a hearing coming up.
Right, there's not anything happening imminently. I mean, that's a little bit
Is
ways
that
off.
thing still
so.
closed? Are they still flipping us off on camera?
I haven't watched those videos, but yes, I think November, it looks like November 21st at 10 a.m. in Titusville.
That's the day before my last official day.
Christine's like, I'll be glad that's not me.
Well, I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, it could be. All right. So you're done with your board report?
That was
Okay.
yes.
Mr. Vate?
The only thing I will add to that as my board report is that for the Malabar scrub, I did speak to Parks and Rec staff, and they are continuing to do the fire line related activities that are necessary for safety and health related. And we had a good discussion just yesterday about to make sure that we continued those efforts no matter what position Malabar's taking, because that's our obligation under the lease arrangement and for the safety in public. So they know that they are continuing those efforts, so the board can feel confident that they are doing that.
Ms. Schwerik?
No report.
Commissioner Pritchett?
Just one little comment, and I probably shouldn't do this, but I'm hoping Florida Today's listing, they could make an adjustment. After our last meeting, and we were talking about doing the CPI changes in the charter, I saw online the article they put out, and they used a picture of Commissioner Smith and Commissioner Tobia kind of enjoying things, and they made it sound like we thought it was a joke.
Yeah.
And you know,
It's
actually, it's
disgusting.
a cute little picture, you guys, but I mean, it's like, come on, guys. And so I'm just gonna kind of plead to them right now to maybe get a little bit more of that information in. And again, you know, even with this, I mean, the $20 a week extra for us, what it's gonna do, the future commissioners, it's gonna raise their salaries up some. And in the way that inflation's been going, and everybody in the county right now is getting $1 an hour raise for the next 6 years. So it's just where we're going. You have to catch up with these inflation numbers. And so it's just appropriate, and I want to leave that to the next group that comes up, and Commissioner Tobias' proposal that we're going to vote on soon for the charter later on. That'll go on, we'll vote for it now, because for some reason, when people try to get this kind of up to par, they kind of get beat up a bit. So I'm proud of you guys taking the hit with us, and we'll do that, and we'll set it up for the future coming along. We had a lot of nice comments as well, and it was nice seeing some of our employee staff that was on staff before, and they were defending us quite adamantly. So I just thought it was nice. I just want to mention that in case they're listening, if they would please adjust that, it would be very.
Well, it's a bit of an eye roll when someone comments that $57,000 in 1992 is the same as what it is today, because that's just, you know, you can put in any inflation calculator, and that's over 120, 100.
And I must say, it was kind of nice having a doctor on the commission tonight to go up and take care of an emergency situation. So thank you, ma'am, for doing that too.
And our employee upstairs, where we took a brief break, he's doing just fine. So thankfully, thanks for letting us know to come up and take a look and give a hand. So I'm happy to help. Commissioner Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I want to give a shout out to a fine young man by the name of Lance Stern. I was at the Melbourne Chamber of Commerce breakfast this morning, and he was the student of the month. He's a senior at West Shore High School, and he's just a fine young man. He's a real asset to this community. So at the same time, I'd like to offer a shout out to his parents, his dad, Gary, and his mom, who happens to be Christine's chief of staff, Danielle Stern. They've obviously done a terrific job with this young man. He's a real testament to hard work and keeping your nose to the grindstone, and he's got just a terrific personality as well.
He's brilliant, he's kind, he's musically talented, he's an athlete, he's the whole package, and he's just a very, very good person. But like you said, it's kind of a testament to their parents. So Danielle and Gary have done an amazing job with that boy.
Job well done.
All right, and I don't have any report, so thank you for hanging in. Meeting adjourned.
It's been a good time.
The opinions expressed by any member of the public during any period of public comment do not necessarily reflect the views or opinions of the Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, or the program sponsor, and are solely those of the presenter. The Board of County Commissioners of Brevard County, Florida, Space Coast Government Television, and the program sponsor hereby expressly disclaim any and all responsibility or liability for any defamatory or slanderous statements expressed by any member of the public